What's going on, guys? So this one's gonna be super short. I promise. I know I always say that, but I just want to talk a little bit about when you meet new people. Start introducing yourself as the future you, like who you are wanting to be. Like you're gonna be that person now, right? Now, I know there's gonna be a few little like arguments towards this, right? Like let's say that you call yourself a movie producer and you've never produced a movie before, right? Well, if they ask and you're in that situation, well, pretty quickly they'll probably find out that you've never done one before, and they're like, well, what's this guy talking about? So maybe you could shift that into saying how you're learning to produce film now, or you're in the process of working on being a filmmaker. Like you're learning from different mentors right now, and so that might pique someone's interest in wanting to help you, especially if they do that themselves as a profession or a passion, or they know someone who does, right? And like a fun example, at least just to help illustrate this for you a little bit more, is myself. I've done some music writing for video games and film, and I haven't really done it for bigger things yet, right? Like big films or big video games, and so I started suppressing that and went down a route of doing sales, right? So almost anytime I introduced myself, it became a situation where I was just talking about what I was doing for work, right? Oh, I do sales. Like, well, what do you do? Sales, right? And it's like it leads to a pretty boring conversation. I mean, sales is like helpful in a lot of different areas in your life, but it leads to a pretty boring conversation overall, usually. So for me, like I started just telling people the other things too, right? Like I do a little bit of a few things, sales, writing music for video games, and then also some personal coaching when it comes to men's mindsets, around their fitness or their relationships, like building a business, things like that, right? And that leads to a whole different kind of conversation, right? So, I mean, and you could do this in so many different ways, right? Like, I had a mentor recently who is a bit older, and he does these things. Like he introduces himself as his future self now because he's such a good action taker that when he decides that there's something new that he wants to learn how to do, he just starts learning and he just starts talking to the right people. I mean, even recently, he was saying that he wants to start a mindset retreat, right? About essentially getting your mind right in terms of all these areas that I just talked about, like the business and your passion and your fitness and just different things to basically shift your mindset so you can be your best self, right? And funny enough, he's talking about like making this a retreat, and he was thinking about like hosting it at his own place and having people like fly out, and he ended up talking with someone who was building a resort, right? Like building a resort that had a bunch of villas and like condos inside of it, so it's like an apartment complex as well. And he talked to this guy who owns the whole complex about that idea, probably because the guy asked, and then he offered him a stake in the company, and he offered him to incorporate his idea, and so like he could hold the retreat or hold some of these like masterminds or whatever you want to call them at the resort, right? So the partnering together. And so this is what I'm trying to tell you, right? Like if you don't say it, there's certain people that are kind of like crabs in a bucket, right? Like maybe they they don't want to move out of their hometown, and they want to work whatever job their whole life and XYZ. And there's nothing wrong with that. No judgment here. I'm just saying that if you tell the wrong people, they're gonna downplay. Be like, oh, I don't know, man. Maybe you shouldn't try that. But if you tell the right people, like what my friend and mentor did, they were like, oh, that's like a really great idea. Like how would that work? Oh, okay. Well, actually, I'm starting this business, and maybe we could join these ideas. So you have to start being more vocal with, let's say, like entrepreneurial people who really want to level up. Right? Like if you start putting these things out into the universe of what you're wanting to do, right? What you're working on, what you're learning. Oftentimes, you're going to connect a lot more than you think you would if you just kept it to yourself. So I think the moral of the story here is start being more open with people. In that way, you can become the future you now. Act as him now. Do what he would do now. And those things are going to come to you so much faster. You got this.